Afternoon all. Okay, it's approaching 5:30. We're in for the final, and okay, it's between Nakamura, who seems to be having good fortune on him in the last game against Kramnik. I thought he was only heading for a draw to be in the tiebreak with Kramnik, but he ended up winning. The exchange down, so showing anything can happen in chess. In particular, anything can happen in blitz finishes. Seems a bit random. So yeah, amazing resourcefulness though from Nakamura. I couldn't see any of that happening. I think in my wildest dreams to lose that position, for Kramnik to lose that position, it took some doing. So anyway, so the ICC relay, London Chess Classic, has been a very, very interesting event this year with the rapid chess. I think some people were preferring the classic time controls, but there is a lot of entertainment value from these rapid games, especially I think with increment. You do get a high level of play, consistent high level of play, usually, without too many major blunders. But okay, so who do you reckon will win? Nakamura or Gelfand? Who's the favourite to win, do you think? We should have some links soon, shortly, I hope. Hi, Nico Brown. Hi there. So we should have some action soon, I'm hoping. We'll be back to normal next week. Nothing too spectacular to comment on, live at least. Mr. Chickenus. Yeah. Right. A few minutes. Hopefully. So we 2 games, with colours reversed. Time that will be 25 minutes each, with 10-second increment. So every move they make, they get an extra 10 seconds. So legacy of Fisher, the Fisher clock. This clock increments business. So I wonder if Nakamura will play B3 when he's white. When he's black, he might play B6. That'll be interesting. Thanks, Koji Atwood. Yeah, it's been fun. So, hopefully we have some meat to talk about, some meaty, exciting games to talk about soon, I'm hoping. By the way, there was an interesting tweet by Nakamura, I think a few weeks back. Did anyone catch that about Magnus Carlsen being a bit like Sauron? I saw Sauron in the film last night. I was watching The Hobbit, and there was Sauron in The Hobbit. It's a fantastic film. I won't say anything much about it. I recommend just go and see it. Hobbit, masterpiece. Approaches 3 hours in length, but it just flew by actually. In 3D, there was actually a choice of 3D. There was high frame rate 3D. I just went for the ordinary. We just went for the ordinary 3D. bit late in that. 8 minutes late. I can't see anything. Can't see anything being played yet. I think The Hobbit's in the second kind of chronological one, I think. I've seen one where they were meeting up before going on the journey with the Hobbit. Seems Magnus Carlsen's second was doing well in the FIDE Open actually as well. I think he's on for board one, I think, today. Hammer. I think he's on board one of the FIDE Open. Yeah, he's playing white against Gupta, who Gupta won it actually as well. I think a couple of years back, was it? Was it last year? Maybe Gupta won it last year. So it's Hammer's like 2612. He's playing Gupta 2608 on board one in the FIDE Open. Oh, I think moves are coming through. Okay, we've got a board here as well. That is the board. We only need one board. In fact, for the first time, we're in the final. We only need one board. Here we go. Actually, yep, I'm hoping we get the moves in soon. Stop commenting. I'll start putting the moves in the analysis board actually soon. Okay. So d4 knight f6, c4. Let's put these in there. So the Grunfeld defense, hyper-modern opening, popularised I think by Kasparov actually at one point when he needed a new weapon against Karpov. He was getting done over in Tarrasch and switched to the Grunfeld. This is the Russian system, Queen b3, encourages black to give up the centre there, but white's queen could be subject to tempo gains. I think Nakamura is well booked up on this. There are some very, very sharp lines here. So there's e5, very aggressive stuff. Could be disruptive pawn sack in the centre soon with e6 on knight d7. So the queen's keeping on that dangerous diagonal. e6 is a possibility to factor in here, for example. Knight g5 actually was played. So e6 looks quite dangerous now. Knight c6 attacking d4. In fact, already it's really quite tactical, this position. So bishop, I don't know, bishop e. This is all probably very theoretical. Bishop e3. Let's say bishop e3. What can black do here if bishop e3? So like e6 would actually threaten knight takes d4 here to deflect the bishop potentially, because bishop takes d4, queen g5. But castling would actually protect d4 with the rug. Also, I think this falls victim anyway to knight takes e6. There's a loose piece here, so that wasn't getting a loose piece there. He's actually ignored that totally. Blimey, he's actually played knight takes f7. Sharp or what? So. Blimey. Knight takes d4, attacks the queen here. Well, we could have this continuation. It's pretty unlikely. Yeah.
Checkmate.
If we see this, that's kind of unlikely. I'll be more surprised than the previous game. Knight takes f7. So it's probably not a good idea to play knight takes d4 actually. Now, if rook takes, then if rook takes, e6 actually looks good. So it's an exchange sack line. So I'm taking the rook now.
Check.
Yep. So king could go to f8 just to block the pawn. So it's an exchange sack variation. Queen dropping back. Is black going to have fierce pressure for this exchange sack? So on pawns at the moment, oh, hang on, knight c3. Quite dynamic play by both players. So this knight is actually quite strongly supported at the moment, and there's nothing to dislodge it, no pawns to dislodge it. Imagine bishop e3, we could play, this looks like a very nice move to be able to play, because it sort of inhibits this bishop. We've got loads of pressure. b4 looks to decentralise white. I don't know if Naka's going to be regretting this line. It looks a bit anti-central control for the moment after bishop e3. If we don't play bishop e3, what happens if we don't play bishop e3? In fact, bishop f5 looks to be horrible thing. So bishop e2, I mean even bishop f5, if white castles, this looks pretty interesting, to say the least. I don't know if this is all like theory or something. Maybe it's all theory. I don't know, if anyone knows the theory, please let me know. So bishop e3, that's the move I just made up. It was actually played, so I don't know. Bishop b7 just looks very interesting for black. There's a lot of pressure. And if white ever plays queen d2 and tries to castle, there's always knight b3 check. Imagine a queen here and king here. We'd have knight b3 check, where one of the knights is about to pick up the queen. So castling queenside is probably not possible too soon after queen d2. Bishop b7 just looks like what does white actually do? Does he want to take on d4 maybe? Is this silly? Actually, there's a queen h6 check to get that king to take that pawn. What would happen here? b4 or something? b4 looks pretty dangerous. Actually, b4 might be a disaster for check. That'll actually weaken this diagonal. If white has that c4 square, you've got to be careful about b4. Okay, so what does actually black do here? That's interesting. I don't know about bishop. Just giving up the bishop power seems very, very unlikely. But bishop b7 just seems actually like a really good move. What does Engine think of this? Here, I want to play bishop b7. That is actually given as one of the better moves. Bishop b7. It just looks like an actual move. Queen d2 is suggested. I don't know what else we can do. If we play bishop e2, we're going to get destroyed, aren't we? Probably just bishop g2. Yep. This looks like an offbeat system, which doesn't really favour white dynamically. Go back here. If this really is the best, queen d2. Is that really the best? Looks pretty dangerous, actually. I think black's initiative here. It looks like a success at the moment for black's opening. Queen d2 might actually threaten rook d1, I guess. This knight can always potentially be supported with knight e6. Alright, bishop f5. Bishop f5. So there's an immediate issue to solve here. If rook c1, let's imagine rook c1. Wouldn't the bishop have been better on this diagonal? That's the question, though, because white can get away maybe with. Actually, it looks a little bit on the grim side already. If bishop e2, I'm wondering about. Well, okay, black to play here. Why not? I'm not sure about e5. Sorry, Quasif, you said about e5. I don't want to block in this bishop. What about just b4? Would that be terrible? Just b4? Because we're gaining some central control here. Quite a lot of central control. What does white actually do here? If this looks grim. This looks absolutely grim to play knight b1. It looks absolutely awful, but I guess it attacks the knight here. Is rook c1 really a move? It doesn't seem as though there's a wealth of choices, because knight c2 check looks absolutely no, actually bishop e2, we don't really want to give back the exchange. Surely we don't want to give back the exchange with the queen over here. That's ridiculous. That'd be ridiculous, surely. Hang on, this knight's hanging, but maybe we can even ignore that. That looks just so good for black, surely. So what do? We have to play it doesn't look as though there's too many alternatives. Rook c1. What's the engine's suggestion then here to deal with this? Rook c1 is given, and actually gives white slightly better, but I would say, yeah, actually if white can get away with bishop e2 and castling, then maybe things will start looking up. But rook c1 for the moment looks fairly forced. What do you guys think about rook c1? It looks fairly forced. Yeah. I don't know, the bishop there compared to that, I thought that was just such a natural square for the bishop to stop white castling kingside. But let's go with this. I mean, let's go with b4. It looks like horrendous for a moment, but what about knight a4? Let's just challenge this knight on c5 with knight a4. Would this be a disaster? Necessarily. In fact, we've got this e8 square, funny enough. So knight takes, queen takes. We're actually threatening queen e8. That might relieve some of the pressure. Queen e8. And if king takes, then we can play bishop c4 check. And then castle. This would be a dream come true from what seems to be a difficult position. Actually. So maybe this knight a4 has something going for it to get the queen connected with this e8 square. But yeah, I think this is better than knight b1. b4. What do you guys think about this? b4, knight a4. Is there some tactical magic here that black has? We've got two pieces on the knight. We've got this pawn which supports the e8 square. So if this square is loosened, we've got bishop c4 potentially anyway. Maybe b4 is a bit too optimistic. If we play knight e6, and again bishop c4, and it's comfortable looking for white. Again, white's just going to castle. So I personally thought, actually, I don't know if this was theory or not, but I know we shouldn't be looking too theoretically at this, but in this position, the engine suggestion was also bishop b7. If you look at this position with bishop b7 here, I don't know how white would have got his pieces out. That's the thing. It's crazy that h4. How would have white actually got the pieces out on the king side? I don't quite get that, but even that apparently it's about equal. So we have this situation, the bishop going to f5. So queen d2. is not being played yet. No, rook c1. Sorry, it has to defend c2. So it seems that this might be adequate, unless there's a bust for white here that I'm not seeing. Let's just check this position as well. So apparently knight c2 is the best move. If we do take, then white's actually quite doing alright, apparently. And it's queen d5. Yeah, to just defend that e8 with the rook. f3, that's getting a bit hairy. Phew, very hairy.
Check.
Phew. What's going on here? We took here, we can get a load of loose pieces. Apparently, we're talking, yeah, good position if white can get this. It's crazy, but so queen d5, yeah, that would be good for parrying queen e8, keeping an eye on g2. Don't think there's anything better than. Is b4 one of the better moves? Right, if black doesn't play b4, then what does black actually do in this position? What does black want to do here? White's going to try and crawl out the exchange up with bishop e2, surely, and then try and just castle. Just try and castle. And in fact, yeah. In fact, any b4, there's knight a4, and the knight on c5 is going to have to move at some point, surely. It's a loose piece, anyway. So, yeah, maybe Naka's not too worried here. Is he looking into this rook c1? It seems quite decent because of b4 knight a4. So that pawn's actually quite a resource here for queen e8's. So rook c1 I would expect. I can't imagine anything else. Well, let's check f3. I just thought f3. No, it's played rook c1. I think f3 is like quite weakening, to say the least. No, forget f3. Oh, the king on f2. No, there's knight c2 check and stuff. Rook c1 was played, but there's a big question mark for black. b4 or not b4? To b4 or not to b4? So b4, knight a4 seems adequate. Maybe this is all some sort of preparation. Just to be the exchange up. It's good. It's an amazing bit of preparation, perhaps. Okay, so what do we do if we don't play b4? White is threatening in inverted commas just to carry on developing. Now normally that wouldn't be a major deal, but white is the exchange up. So if he plays bishop e2, there's nowhere else for the bishop. I don't think he wants to play g3. He wants to just get castled ASAP, surely. Bishop e2 and castle. What could black be doing here? This line is ultra sharp that we've just seen here. b4, knight a4. Knight takes, queen d5. So stopping white from doing so. We have to play f3. Knight takes f3.
Check.
I mean, what else apart from f3 if we look at this position? This looks mega dangerous. We could look at rook takes c7 here. Let's have a quick look at what would happen if rook takes c7. Alright, b3 now threatens knight c2 check. So knight c2 check. And this is not very nice for white. Oh, he's actually just played queen d6. Okay. He hasn't gone in for this. Queen d6. Ah, there might be a point of bishop e5 actually on h2 here. So bishop e2. We might consider bishop e5 to try and win this pawn if white castles. If g3, then there's interesting possibilities of stopping the king castling, which would look like a great position again, actually. Actually, this is interesting. So queen d6, potentially for bishop e5. What do we do here with white? Hang on, there is actually f4. Hang on, f4. Oh dear. Look at h8 here. Bishop takes, queen takes. We're on h8. And then we do black, win this rook. And we win that knight. If takes him, we've got check.
Check.
Actually, we could. Can we just win that rook? No, there's queen d2 here, so we'd just take here probably.
Check.
And then try and castle. No, we can't castle. Rook d1. This is crazy. Oh, that's madness. It's absolute madness, this position. But, okay, so concretely though, what would we do if we play, if this happens, bishop e2, bishop e5, what does white do here? Maybe just, actually maybe just h3 or h4. Just h3 or h4. Actually, there's other possibilities as well. Bishop h6. There's king f7. I think let's just play h3 here. That should be okay. I think I didn't think of that in this position. Just h3 surely, actually. No, it's actually giving castling. Castling, just give up the h2 pawn.
Check.
We have this h2 pawn. And the bishop goes back. Alright, Naka hasn't played this anyway. He's actually played b4. b4. Isn't that something like knight? A knight e4 might be annoying. Just to get pressure on g2 potentially. So knight takes, bishop takes. Looks annoying to me. If we just leave that knight, again, I mean, we're going to end up losing the exchange back. Oh, it just looks. Why would you want to play b4? That's interesting. b4. Wow, b4. Actually, is that almost knight d3 in this position?
Check.
Probably doesn't work. But knight f3 check as
Check.
king e2. I think knight e4. Let's check this one out. Knight e4 looks interesting. Knight e6 is mentioned. Knight e4. So white apparently could take. And in this position, f3. Apparently this is about equal. We played king f2 here. We lose that pawn. We've got to protect b4. Probably if knight just goes back to e6. And he's gone knight e4. So knight takes. It's going to be knight takes e4 presumably then, and then f3. What do we want to do here with black? Put the bishop just on diagonal. Think. What do we want to do with black? Let's just put the bishop back on b7 for a moment. Or do we leave it on this diagonal? Let's put it on b7 as an example. Bishop e2. For a moment here, it doesn't look as though there's a major disaster awaiting white. So he's actually kept it on this diagonal. Bishop f5. Oh, the threat now is queen takes b4. So he's addressing that. Queen d2. It looks as though king f2 could be handy. Not to bother with bishop e2 and castling, but just king f2. Unless black is demolishing white there somehow, onto king f2, it looks as though that could be on the cards. For example, rook d8, just as an example. It looks as though king f2 might actually be plausible. Actually, what black can do is something like a5, possibly, because this looks like a good set of pawns here coming down. Potentially c4, and then That looks pretty dangerous because, in practical terms anyway, this looks as though b4 could be an excuse here for getting these pawns down the board, because there's a good grip on d4. Imagine we had c4, and c3 is like tactically dangerous. Let's win like this a5 even. Just make it about the pawns, so rook d8 just to support d4 a bit more. Right, so what if... Let's go with this rook d8 again, and just say for a moment bishop e2. Is that terrible? The thing is, I think castling this knight takes f3 when castling happens. So say we just take this castle. We've got knight takes f3 check. And I'm not entirely sure this is that great for white. Although the king is on the f5, it didn't need to take on f7. No, it's probably okay for white. Would he want to play king f2? This looks like a dynamic try, because actually a3 there's well, there isn't knight b3 yet. What about just queen e6 here? Perhaps knight b3. Oh, he has played rook d8. I just wonder, this looks like a good punt for me if I was playing black. I think that would be good to, because actually this pawn's kind of locked down at the moment. We're kind of liberating. This pawn's not going to queen that quickly. So king f2, a5. If bishop e2, it does beg the question about this knight takes f3 later. But I guess that might not be that dangerous. He has played king f2. So what about this a5? We just want to liberate this pawn down here. That looks pretty dangerous to me. If we get a pawn to c4, we're kind of threatening all sorts of things. This might... Okay, let's look at other dynamic tries. Instead of a5, do we really want to take on f7? There's no rush to take on f7, is there? It would be terrible for white to take on d4. The bishops are quite large here. On the dark squares, that looks like a nightmare. So this bishop at the moment is restricted. Actually, a5, I suppose we can just take on... No, we can't take on b5 because the knight's protecting b5. Can't take on d4. a3, it looks as though queen it looks as though queen e6. I don't know, it just looks as though there's big pressure here. Take it here. This is pinned actually anyway. That's knight c6. Oh, it's actually so from an engine point of view, what does the engine think of this position? He's actually played king takes f7. So black has a pawn for the exchange. Very interesting position. Very dynamic. With the king on f7, this diagonal might be more important here somehow in the future. What about something like, for example, a4 might actually become feasible because of this diagonal. So knight d3, there'll be queen a2. There's bishop e6. It's not that pleasant. But in principle, this diagonal could become more important. So bishop e2 was played. Maybe he just wants to get his king. He wants to just play rook d1 actually. Put pressure again on d4. So if black's going to end up playing e5, if black's committed to playing e5, to support the knight soon. I don't know. E5 here. Little pet project. A rook d1 in this position. Let's go with that. Okay. Queen f6. Right, the knight is not really. There's actually queen h4 introduced. Is the knight actually threatening knight f3, queen e8? Something horrible. Queen f6. Wow. So, can we not play just rook? Is that plausible? Mind you, check.
Check.
Check is a pain because of h2. So here we're going to lose the queen.
Check.
Lose the queen. It's probably not the best way to play it. So I think that actually basically stops this rook move because this pawn. So given that is the case, what about h4 here as an alternative? Just leave the king on f2. It's quite happy there and just play for h5. The knight's pinned at the moment, so I don't think knight takes f3 is necessarily a big deal. Ooh, pardon me, too much Fanta. Ooh. He's played just rook takes c7. Rook takes c7. There's a precise calculation needed here. So this queen h4, the pawn's protected still. The check doesn't seem to do anything. Does it? Check doesn't do anything, does it? Let's check the check.
Check.
G3. And then what? Knight e6 to attack the queen and the rook. Let's say knight e6. What does white actually do here? Oh, there's rook d7. He's blocked in the bishop. There's rook d7. That's naughty, isn't it? Tactical idea. Rook d7. And then where is black's attack after rook d7? It looks as though that could get nasty for black. I think. After rook d7. Is that good for white? Let's just check this. He has played it. I think this might have been a blunder, you know, knight e6. There's a kind of weakness to the last move. It's not protecting it's blocking the bishop from d7, and that weakness of the last move is very precisely exploited with rook d7. That bishop was just blocked from d7. Nakamura's just tapped into that weakness of the last move with rook d7. It seems perfectly adequate. So white's in the driving seat here. Very, very much in the driving. I can also imagine this kind of thing later. Could be nasty. I think this could be all over. This move signifies the beginning of the end. I would almost say rook d7. It looks as though I can't see the counterplay for black. Wow, I don't think that was a good idea. Knight e6. Can we not just consider bishop d1 here to be free? Actually, because that actually covers c2 as well. It's actually played bishop d3. I wonder what's wrong with bishop d1 there. Bishop d3. Maybe it's just allowing the rook to be attacked. But with bishop d3, we're actually attacking the attacker. So we're challenging that bishop and we're protecting c2. So, okay, so now if that's eliminated, yeah, that seems more to the point. Not just protecting c2, but challenging this guy before it attacks the rook. So Neka's trying to leave that rook on d7. So if... What about... Is knight c5 plausible? Double attack on the rook. There's always bishop takes now. If takes here, we can take here. And in this position, actually bishop e6 check. We can win the rook here. Or get a good position anyway. Oh, you king e8. Bishop. No. Is that plausible? Knight c5. Double attacking the rook. What would white do here? Oh no, easy. He just takes here. The bishop's protecting c2. No, his queen takes f5. Is this a move? Knight c5. Knight c5. Let's have a look at this position with knight c5. It just loses to something, I'm pretty sure. Just bishop takes f5. Knight takes. Bishop takes. If rook d8? Just rook d1. Alright, and then there's bishop e6. Rook d1. Okay, so technically white is doing well here at the moment. There's no little nasties on the rook on d7, it seems. Knight f4, I guess the same sort of thing. We just take on f5, that's the whole point, to challenge that bishop. And there's no big deal. The rook's staying on d7 there. So there's nothing nasty on d7. Oh, rook c3 has been played. So okay, so we just take this bishop off, do we? This knight's a little bit restricted. I think we just take that guy off. And probably think about rook e1 or something. If like this, rook e1, then we've got things like maybe even bishop c5 soon. Just get the rooks together on e7. What's wrong with just taking this? Is that too dangerous? White's the exchange up still. Doesn't seem as though the storm is too heavy right now. There is rook c2 threatened though. Rook e1, rook c2. I think the king's got to get out of here, funny enough. So in this position, rook c2. What about g4? Considering g4, just kick the queen off that diagonal. And then rook e1, slight improvement there. I want to kick the queen off this diagonal because rook c2 is a pain. So bishop f5 has actually been played, but I think g4 might be useful just to gain a tempo, and then we can just play rook e1 surely. So we kick the queen off because rook c2 is a threat. So say something like queen f6. What would be the matter with rook e1 here? No major disaster there. Let's take on the pawn. And now f4 makes sure black cannot play f4. Queen h4, it seems g3 is adequate here. I think white might be consolidating now. If the knight's kind of being restricted, the rooks seems fine now on d7. This potential issue, I mean, it looks as though white's probably actually interested in playing g3 to stop this check business, so he can just play the rook somewhere. Okay, black's attacked. b4. No, they're both protected adequately. But it seems as though g3 might be an idea just to release the rook. Unless this queen's doing something on this diagonal, I can't see it. But I think g3, so we don't have to worry about queen h4 without losing h2. So then we can play the rook. Later e1 and then bishop c5. Bishop c5 would be useful, coordinating the bishop and rook on e7. I think g3 and rook e1 looks like a consolidation method. But actually he's played rook c1. I guess check. There's king g1. There's no time to take on f4. We just take on c4. Okay, so rook e4 has been played. g3 now. Flash. Not playing g3 immediately. I'm just curious about g3 immediately here. Is there anything wrong with g3 immediately? What did Engine think about that? It just looks sensible to play g3. Why is rook c1 stronger? So g3 seems that's good for white anyway. Okay. So rook c1, rook e4. Apparently this is stronger anyway. Now g3. It looks as though not too much counterplay. You could probably play just h4 here against h5, because it's looking fairly solid. The knight is kind of quite elegantly restricted, I have to say, on e6. It hasn't got any squares. I can't see any problems with the light squares here anytime soon. If we just play h4, just fixing that pawn, getting rid of black's mobility. Also, it's subject to potential attacks later, or even d1. But we've got to be concerned about this e3 bishop all the time at the moment. He has played h4. Queen g6. Okay, maybe the light squares are a problem. Coming up. I doubt it, though. I think e7. He's just left e7. Isn't there something quick on e7? Like queen d6. Bishop c5 is on e7, yes. And if bishop f6 or bishop f8? If bishop f6, I think rook e1 or not. Maybe not. It's queen g4. I think we'd welcome a pawn on f3. So bishop f6, I'm not sure about rook e1. Because maybe queen g4. Do we try rook e1? Queen g4. Does this matter? We can just take here and just play queen e2. We're actually on h5 here. It doesn't matter, does it, about f3? Now, yeah, so he has played rook e1. I'm not sure queen g4 really does much. If the rook moves here, I think, you know, queen d5 end of game, we're on that nasty pin. Everything's end of game, horrendous, surely. There's a check here though, there's a check.
Check.
Maybe not end of game. Not so easy. Okay, that's something to bear in mind. That check there. So rook c4 might actually... Wait. We're saying rook c4. Just play rook e2 here. We just play rook e2 here. And we're threatening queen d5. I think queen d5 immediately. Yeah. No need for counterplay. I think rook, let's check this position. We'll engine play rook e2. There's rook e6 in fact. That's crushing here. Just out of interest before getting onto the game, but queen e5 is mate. Yeah, easy. Okay, forget that one. So the rook just remained there. So I think just taking and then queen e2. Surely queen e2 here. We've got this nasty check on h5. If queen f5, queen f5, queen f5. Let's go with queen f5. Actually, that threatens knight takes f4, hitting d7. No. He's gone for it. He's going for it. Is he going queen e2? He can't be going queen e2. Going queen d1. Now queen f5. There's queen d5. Big difference. Queen f5 here. Protecting f3. He's on h5. If queen f5, queen d5. Possibly. I think there's not too many options. If queen, he has gone there. There is queen d5. That's different from queen e2. It's queen g. Let's imagine queen d5, queen g4. Maybe just f5 here. It doesn't matter about this check. It's not totally the end of the world.
Check.
We'll just go here. How are the checks like carrying on? Mind you, bishop c3 check.
Check.
It's nearly like mating. No, that's not to be allowed. So this position here, we just take on e4, Muppets. We just take on e4. So that's why queen d1's powerful. We just play this. Queen d5, surely. Queen d5. Is the chat broken or something? Sorry, hi there. I don't know. I think we've got queen d5 here. But let's just check that. He's played rook d5. Even better, probably. Oh, it's immediately winning. It's crushing, isn't it? It's just winning at h5. No, he's not going for h5. He's just trying to get rid of the queens. The queen is being forced off, I think. Queen g4. Is he teasing that for a moment? Queen g4. This is just
Check.
the end of the queen, because we can
Check.
always take here. Yep. So if we play queen g4, queen g4, queen e2. Is this good? Queen e2. Play here, check.
Check.
Oh, we're giving black some counterplay. Are we? It's not really. I don't know if that's a problem. Queen g4. Annoying that queen f3. Don't know. Queen g4. What do we do with queen g4? Let's go with this. Let's go with this. This position. There must be something here. No, is this too dangerous? Queen h2. No. What's happening here? Let's just check this engine thing. Apparently queen e2 and if queen h3. Oh, simple. We don't take it. We just take on e4. Ah, that's just end of game. We just take on e4. It covers g2 and everything. Takes away the dangerous pawn. Very simple. That's very elegant. What Nakamura done? What has he actually done? Bit of pyrotechnic stuff. He's keeping a tempo gain on the queen to get to e2 very, very rapidly with tempo, which is like a double attack on g4 and e4. And then he doesn't have to go to give black counterplay. I think this is going to be all over pretty shortly. So queen takes e4 and it's all over. Did he resign? I'll see you soon then. I think I've got to go and eat before I get killed. So did he resign? I think this is why it's all over. Yep. Okay, so when's the next round? Okay, I'll see you in a bit. I don't think there's any more moves coming, but I'll leave this open. I'll be back in. Is it 7 o'clock? Is it 7 p.m. next? I'll see you soon. See you soon. I'll leave this open. Hello. Ah, yes. Ah, fantastic dinner, actually. Yeah. So, that was an exciting game, and Gelfand playing white. I hope we get a King's Engine defence. Nakamura might play the King's Engine defence, just for fun, because I think in this more fun format you can play more fun openings. On the other hand, Gelfand's done well against Garwin Jones, who played the King's Engine. I don't know, maybe Gelfand is strong against that. So what can we expect? Let's put this back. I don't think Boris plays e4. It's more of a d4, a Catalan player. So, by the way, this is the Internet Chess Club. I have my own correspondence-style server, chessboard.net, which I'm playing quite a few of you at. But I thought it'd be interesting to do these relays. So, yep. Come on, let's get going. 7 o'clock was the scheduled time. It's 3 minutes past at the moment. Have they played any moves? And what's happened in the FIDE Open? Hammer, Carlsen's second, has won the FIDE Open. He beat Gupta. He beat a 26.08 in the final round to have 7.5 points. Oh, hang on. He could be... And the other one on 6.5 was knocked out. Was beaten by Gratchev. So he's a sole leader. He won the tournament on his own, Hammer, from Norway. Same age as Carlsen. Just a couple of 100 points lower. 26.12, but he's won the FIDE Open. So congratulations to Ludwig Hammer. I think someone mentioned that if you're a second, you sometimes gain in strength. Kasparov, I think, said recently his seconds at World Championships gained in strength after. Hammer's won it actually before, though. I've got to move. D4. Okay. King's Engine, maybe. Yes. Fantastic. So it's this... Ah, yes, of course. let's just copy the game. I'm not keeping up here. Averbach thingy system. Boris Averbach system. Something like that. So, White will probably want to play A4, I guess. A4. I think I've seen this before. And if Queen A5. Let me just Bishop D2 here. Alternatively, yeah, he has played A5. Alright, so we're threatening knight takes E4 as the threat. I'm just wondering about Bishop D2. Or what about Queen D2? Queen D2. Let's play Bishop D2. E6. So for the moment, the queen's not in grave danger. Knight F3 takes. Would he consider taking the knight here? I wouldn't have thought so. Taking the knight. Just briefly check this out. Queen goes back D8. There is Bishop G5, but I think that there's a problem with this. That this D4 square might be good for black. Like knight C6. I think, I don't know, it's worth considering. I've had this sort of thing played against me once by a strong player. Knight takes D5, surprisingly, but no, E takes. So that tries to reduce counterplay, I think, to a minimum, rather than taking the C pawn. So Bishop G4. F-white castles. I wonder about bishop takes here for Queen B4. Just quickly on C4 and B2. It's knight B5 is on D6. This can't be good for black, surely. So I think probably actually knight D7. Castle knight D7 would look okay. Or I don't know, knight H5. Is that plausible, knight H5? Is it actually plausible? Or is there something horrible going on here? No, it's played knight D7 anyway. Ooh. Knight D7. So any knight B5, we've got either B6 or D8 right now. I think B6, A5 might be annoying. Actually, we're not winning that pawn there. Why isn't D6 dropping off out of interest? Knight B5, attacking the queen. Queen B6. A5. Just winning D6 here. Before just checking that out, I just want to just quickly check this position. There's something silly about it that I've missed. Something blatantly obvious. Queen D8, not Queen B6, because A5 is strong. Apparently, Queen D8 immediately. And if knight takes D6, Queen C7, and the knight's kind of trapped on D6. That's something to bear in mind. The knight's trapped. Well, it's a bit more complicated than that. Bishop F4, knight H5. I think fundamentally there's a problem with the piece anyway. Let's check that one here. Knight h5, and so that's a big trap. The whole thing. 26. So bypassed. Instead we see h3, bishop takes, queen c7, queen c2, we go 95, we're hitting c4 actually. That's interesting. Bishop e2. We're going to play f4 later. Doesn't really want to do that. Yeah, knight e8. Possibly an idea is bishop d4 and knight g7. This knight could then come out maybe later to f5 or just... Well, that looks pretty neat. I don't think bishop d4, knight g7. I wouldn't have thought it's a big deal to challenge the bishop there. I think bishop d4 looks useful. If it's on e5, it's... I'm not sure it's that great on e5. Possibly another idea is I don't know if f5 looks... Is it too weakening to play a move like f5 later? There's no knight here to hop into e6. This knight would have a hard time getting to exploit e6 if f5's played. So, but bishop d4, knight g7 looks interesting. And there's always knight e2 though to consider if to hit that bishop. Okay, rook e1. Bishop's gone to e5, right. Avoids any knight e2 issue. So again, we might consider, as black, playing, I think, a knight g7. Because actually, we've got a nice knight maneuver to d4 potentially, as well. Might just play bishop h6, knight g7. I don't know. Then we'd be delayed with rook e8, and then knight f5 to d4 as a plan. He's actually playing bishop d1. Bishop d1. So possible is f4 maybe for f5. So maybe black is interested in playing f5 just to stop f5 from white. If we just play f5 here, mind you, there's always a check if we need to get tempo. So say knight g7, f4, we play this check.
Check.
And then here, actually knight f5 is dangerous for knight g3. If king h2 here. No, knight f5, g4. It's maybe f5. Is that terrible? The knight's kind of restricted. If white can use e6 potentially, then forget it. White actually might be doing g4 here. No, I'm not sure about f5. I'm not sure about f5. If f4 is tempting in the first instance, f4. What does white want to do? He does play f4. Okay, we can throw in the check.
Check.
So king h2, I guess, because otherwise g3 is a problem. f5 was played. Now I'm just wondering, you see, white's got the light square bishop. There's no challenging light square bishop here for black. So a move like g4, would that be out of the question? I guess it would be, because black's got a good blockade on f5. I'm just wondering if, you know, knight f5, bishop g4. Again, I think with a knight on f5, that should be fine for black. This e6 is a bit of a concern, but how does white actually exploit e6 here? And the knight's actually poised for supporting rook e8. If black just wants to draw, then you win the whole thing. He can just swap off both rooks here. It's the only open file. So kind of symmetrical pawn structure here. Black could just get rid of both rooks. And actually, if coming to think about it, knight f6 to h5 looks an idea to put pressure on these two squares. What is the knight actually doing on d7 right now? This is the final game. I think this could be the final game. Or is it 4 games? Do they play 4 games or just 2? I'll try and make sure of that. Okay, knight e2. Ah, the knight's heading. Oh, wow. He's found a way to get to e6. Like this. Potentially to e6. But on the other hand, you know, h6. If knight h4, king h7, is that such a big deal? I think this is, if Naka draws this, I don't think there's anything else. It's got 7 to 8:30. This is the schedule. 7 to 8:30 is the schedule for this, and if needed, 8:30 to 10 o'clock for a playoff. So if Nakamura drew this, this would be it. So is this plan? I mean, where else can a knight go? He's played b5. Just needs to draw it. That seems to be kind of a bit of risk taking with black. On the other hand, if you can weaken d5, let's have a look. If white dared to take this, which would weaken d5. There's also rook a2, bishop c3, rook a2, bishop c3. Maybe just taking queen a5 even. There's rook on the 7th. I don't know about that. So he has taken anyway. He's taken on b5. Yes, he is going for this. Now rook a2 I think probably is not a great move. Without further investigation, it doesn't look brilliant. What about just queen b7? We want to just get the pawn back, because these bishops are not really helping control this one. We can just double attack both these pawns. He's done that. I managed to predict Nakamura's move. Fantastic, 50 points. So queen b7, not the poxy rook a2, doesn't do anything. The bishop is standing guard of the entry point e7. So that looks pleasant enough. Unless there's a RAF. Hang on, bishop e2 protects both of them. Because queen takes, there's bishop c4, skewing queen against king. So bishop e2. So there's a deeper point here, I think. After bishop e2. I'm struggling to find what it is. Knight b6, probably. Or just king h8. We just play king h8. Let me protect this. Let me play this. How does d5 get protected here? How does queen d3? The problem is, that would leave the b pawn. And even if it didn't, at minimum, black would have something like this to sort of win b5 at minimum. So I don't think it's a big deal what Nak has done. He's broken up the centre. Exploding the centre is a very popular thing to do with b5 in this kind of position. So I think bishop e2, just sidestep bishop c4. Alright, bishop e2 was played. So just sidestep it with king h8. Is there a problem with king h8? If bishop c4, knight b6, I'm sure black's going to be able to get a pawn back. Surely he's getting his pawn back. On the other hand, we can try and make this backfire on black for d6. If we play something like... Okay, let's try b3 here. Knight takes d5. This position. There's no entry points, though. The knight's covering e6, bishop e7. There is this other plan to continue with, though, knight f3. To get to e6 like this, maybe knight f3. That might work well with the bishop here, actually, on f7 coordination, to play knight f3 to g5. We can't Naka just play knight c7 here, and he's got d5 there. Coming up. Or knight takes b5. I don't really think... This looks like a justified pawn sack still. I don't think this costs that much doubt on it. Alright, rook a2. So bishop c3 seems... I thought bishop c3 was strong before. But is it actually better here now? So bishop c3... Of course, it blocks the c4 square, so we can take on d5 potentially. Not here. Bishop f6. So bishop takes c3. Queen takes. Knight b6. He's going to get his pawn back. Is he not? But we've got a loose piece now. So bishop f3 is a bit of a pain for the loose piece. Like queen c4. So bishop f3, there's knight a4. No, again, loose piece alert. Queen b3. Stay put there. Bishop f3. What do we do to bishop f3? This actually looks a bit fragile for e7 as well, coming to think about it. You can imagine the two rooks trying to go for e7 with the queen here. It's pretty devastating. So something like rook e2 here. Is this giving us better for white by engines, I wonder? It seems bishop f3 looks good here. Let's check this out. No? Bishop f3 is not mentioned much. Rook a4. Rook a4. And black's better. What is going on here? It's taking f4. And if g3, rook b4. Okay, doing that. No, not. I guess not. That would be a total disaster to take on. We just play queen c4, yeah? Total disaster. So the idea appears to be, there is a subtle weakness of the last move actually, that the queen has just come off a4 here earlier. So this bishop f3, this rook a4 is available, not just to knight, but of course to the rook. And bishop f3 of course weakens f4 from that moment in time. So that's very interesting. So knight f3 was played instead. So again, we've got this horrible bishop c4 in reserve, but knight g5, trying to use that e6 in the future, looks to be a pain. This looks like a more solid manoeuvre to get a pawn back, although the bishop's on it now. If it doesn't go to f3, that's not a big deal. Forget that, scrap that manoeuvre. So I think knight g5. Interesting. Essentially, it's awkward for black. Do we have a move for black here? If we just stop knight g5 with h6, is that terrible? On knight h4, king here would seem sufficient. And again, we've got the king out of this diagonal, so actually we're going to be taking on d5 at some point, surely. There's always, if we cover c4 with a knight, actually there's no bishop c4. And if ever any bishop f3, then we got that manoeuvre mentioned before. We can get a tempo off f4 and b5. I think it might be desirable to stop knight g5. I'm not saying this is an amazing threat, knight g5. I mean, when it's there, what is it doing? Knight e6 would start to look a little bit scary to have a pawn on e6, potentially. And there's coordination of the queen and knight on g7, of course. So is h6 a desirable move here, though? What's the engine move here? I have interest. I don't think it thinks much of h6. h6, just b4 apparently, with a big advantage to white. Okay, forget h6 then. So rook e8, knight g5. It looks as though white might be getting an advantage anyway. Somehow. With this knight coming to e6. If rook e6 here, bishop c4. Doesn't help this loose piece on a2, actually. So it seems there's a flaw with h6 in terms of b4 here. Quite fascinating. That we can't simply parry this with h6. Why is b4 so strong then? Let's have a quick look at that. Let's play a move for white. h6, b4. In theory, this is a strong move. Basically, it does undouble the pawns. So queen takes d5, b takes, and we're damaging black's pawn chain. There's a check here, winning the rook. Or, well,
Check.
here we can just
Check.
take it and then bishop c4. Right, so rook a4 has been played. Rook a4. That does stop b4 actually, funny enough. It attacks f4. What's the problem here? I wonder. There is b3. No, there isn't b3. Is there? No, he's played knight g5. So going into that e6. And if queen d5, what would happen here? There's no crazy forcing move with queen g7. What about bishop f3? Bishop f3 does bring a surprise to get to e7 quite quickly. G1, f4. Maybe just bishop c6 here. Protect f4 first, then try and get to e7 shortly after. Bishop f3. Is this right? Bishop f3? Let's check this position. Alright, that was one of the better moves it seems. So rook a4, knight g5, and if queen takes, I'm pretty sure bishop f3. Is bishop f3 any good? Maybe, but actually stronger is rook d1. Actually d6 is a problem here. And if rook d4, bishop f3 here. Rook d1 is embarrassing on d6 actually. So this position, apparently the best move one of the best moves might be rook d4. b3. Here we've always got this like annoying bishop c4 pin. Actually there's another pin over here. So something like this, queen f3. It's nasty. Isn't it? I think that's pretty nasty. So actually this is a bit long-winded to try and get this pawn back at the moment. Seems a big adventure. to get the pawn back. So rook d4 is the engine choice. I think... So apparently there's a problem with queen d5 with d6. Because rook d1, rook d4, there's bishop f3. And there appears to be some other issues here. If queen c4 have it, I think we just take. And then if takes here, we can just take here
Check.
for this knight.
Check.
For this check. So I think queen d5 is kind of ruled out if rook d1 is played. That looks really quite embarrassing, losing d6 if the queen goes back. Rook d4, bishop f3 does seem intriguing. Actually, the queen hasn't got that many squares. Yeah, so rook d4 first. Rook d4 looks safer. What would you guys play here with black? Seems a bit tricky, this position. After knight g5. Let's go with rook e8. Knight e6 is a pain. So queen d5 is queen g7 as mate. There might be knight d5 here. It's playing actually h6. I think the knight must go to e6. Must surely go to e6. Must do. But on the other hand, what is there in this position with knight takes d5? What do we use in this position? We've got e6 hanging here. Queen c2, it hits the rook. Okay, is it essential knight e6? Maybe nothing is essential in chess, but knight e6 I thought was the intention before, but maybe here it's not quite right. Is that really the case? Knight e6, knight d5, then we got a loose knight. Queen b3, someone's mentioned. Is that better than queen c2? Queen b3. So if knight takes, it's bishop f3. We just take the rook. Just take the rook. Knight takes f4, and well, we got the queen. We got the queen and rook on there anyway. I just thought about g2. So yeah, queen b3. Okay, I think knight d5 does look risky because of queen b3 then. Yeah, just queen b3. Let's check this now that it's actually arrived at the position. Queen b3, we're saying. Nope, not queen b3. There's rook b4 here. So might actually be bishop f3 is better. I see, was knight e6 really the best move? It was given as the best move, and this looks to be loosening up. Bishop f3 is played, so knight takes... Bishop takes b7. If we play knight e6 here, then this is good, because actually we're undoubling our pawns, and we've still got bishop d5. That's better for white. It doesn't matter about losing f4. Bishop c6. And okay, this does look good. I think g3 and rook e7, or just rook e7 is on the card soon. Bishop c6. Just bishop c6. Do we want to play that? It's just annoying for b5. Get another pin in a position. Knight takes. Oh, there's knight c7 here. Using that pin, that'd be horrible, wouldn't it? Let's have a look at that one. Of interest. So knight takes b5. What's wrong with knight c7? Apparently this is okay for black. It's giving this is okay for an exchange sack. Take. We've got two passed pawns here. Is that really better for black? F4's a bit weak. Yeah, maybe this is sort of interesting. Maybe this is black's idea. He's going to sack the exchange. I don't know, bishop c6, I don't know what else to do apart from knight b5 anyway. Knight e4. If we go knight e4, just maybe take on. About just knight c7 there to go to d5. Mind you, this knight's a bit of a pain. On the other hand, the rooks can come like this on the a file. Bishop's controlling a8. We'll get to play rook a1. Knight coming to d5. Could be nasty. So bishop c6. He did take. He's going for an exchange sack. So knight c7. This is an exchange sack line. You'd have to visualize both knights attacking f4 to help justify this exchange sack. So knight takes, bishop takes. He's gone for it. Rook takes. We're on g2. And then trying to get both knights to win f4 is fascinating. I don't know why rook e7 was given as one of the best moves here. Sure, has white got nothing else going on? I suppose black is going to be playing knight e6. And maybe knight d4 is going to be a pain. Or possibly king f7 to stop rook e7. Then knight d4. He's done this exchange sack. So it's a rook on the 7th rank. And this is just the f4 pawn. If the knights can keep a grip, king to stop e7. Otherwise, I guess that's why rook e7, there's a rush to play it. Otherwise, it's going to be extinguished with king f7. So king f7 might actually be... well, knight e6 blocks, obviously, rook e7 anyway. So if white doesn't play rook e7, I mean, what about, say, rook b1? Is that plausible? Let's just check out rook b1. No, we don't want to play here because of a check. If we just go into this ending the exchange down as an example, just check this out. Knight e6. The knights are pretty solid. It might not be too terrible. What's a king f6? Got pressure on f4. We got these two passed pawns. Then after king f6, knight d4. He's actually played... Okay. So rook f3 has been played. Rook f3. That creates the resource bishop b3 actually. So if knight e6, we've got bishop b3 here. And that would be nearly... That would be disaster, wouldn't it? Because rook here. And if d5, we can just play bishop takes d5. And on the other hand, there's rook takes... I don't know if that's drawing for black.
Check.
This position.
Check.
Is this a draw? It should be at least a draw, shouldn't it? It's like 3 pawns for the exchange. If that's just left. Well, it's not good. F4's dropping anyway. King comes to f6. Anyway, that's not what's going on. So rook f3. So actually, rook b4 was played. Oh right, I get it. I think bishop b3. There's c4. We can answer with c4 now. Okay, so the bishop's gone to d7. Can we not play king f7 here? Just to stop rook e7. If we play king f7, I think the doubling is a Is it a problem? Knight d5. We're on e7. We're hitting f4. f4's already weak anyway. So what's wrong with king f7 here? That might be a move. King f7. And possibly we can start to look forward to getting this d pawn down. So that was played king f7. Keeps the rook out of e7, out of mischief. Now if we double for a quick rook e7, I mean it might even be the case that the f4 pawn could be taken. I'm not sure.
Check.
The check here, is that devastating? I think bishop takes to win this guy. But knight d5 looks good to hit the rook, hit f4, protect e7. So I'm not sure about this rook. I'm not sure about that. Boris was excellent in his game against Adams, the exchange up. I wonder how excellent he's going to be here. So it's a sort of analogous scenario. I thought Adams was having a rock solid position and then soon fell apart. But here it does seem as though, well, it doesn't look that much of a problem at the moment for black to be the exchange down. So king f6, okay. Does black really want to play just d5, d4? Was it creating some sort of weakness to do that? And it gives up the e5 square for a start. Arnulf, Peter, you're saying rook a3 here. Rook a3. Now a6 is covered with the knight. He has played rook a3. 50 points to you. Right, rook a3. Rook b6. So even if the knight's kicked now, we're fending off any lateral threat to d6. So if rook a7, I think we can play knight e6. So we're fending off any rook a6 with rook b6. That's interesting. So knight e6 here. Black could be heading for d4. Why not head for d4? It looks like a beautiful square, the d4 square. If rook a7, knight e6. I don't think there's a big deal going for h7 like this. We just play h5. So we have the move h4 being played. Aha. These are two connected passed pawns, technically. But is it giving up some key squares? The e5 square is the immediate one which comes into mind, but so what? You know, if rook e5 at the moment, there's a so what, I think, because Well, as long as we don't play d4 here. If we play c4, is it a big deal? Because then we're going to play d4 and then it starts to get quite dangerous. Okay, so rook a7. It's played. Is there a problem with knight e6 here? He's gone the other one. I wonder why that one's better. Is that potentially better? Oh well. So this one, that's interesting. Why has he chosen that one, not the other one? If we'd done the other one, is there a big problem with knight? Just out of interest, theoretical interest. There doesn't seem to be a theoretical problem immediately with knight. He actually played what the engine prefers. This one, it's quite discerning. Play this one to e6. See, I thought that this one could go there. So why is this one being played? We can't go there. What are we doing with this one? That's interesting. What would actually be wrong with d4? If we just try and advance with d4. He's gone with c4. Now there is the idea of rook a6, but I don't know if it's too late with the pawns already. If we take here, okay, we're leaving this on free. So knight takes rook a6. I mean, I think the pawns are already pretty dangerous. I mean, in this scenario, I mean, it might actually be possible to just take that and d4. I don't know what's stopping the pawns here. Like d3, d2, and that's it. For example, I don't think bishop takes with that idea. That doesn't look too amazing at the moment. So the knight is actually stopping that a6. Maybe that was why that knight was stronger. We're leaving this knight guarding a6. So it's all about the pawns. It's not about getting a knight to d4. Perhaps it's all about the pawns now. I'm not sure. Okay, what does white do? What does white do here? There's no entry point on a8 or a6. These pawns, it can't get behind them on c5. That knight's covering c5. If you go in front now, it's probably, well, it seems horrendously passive. How can black actually improve the position here? That would keep a check on d4 at least. We can just take on c4. But can black build on the position here? Oh! Oh! Okay. Rook d7. Rook d7. And there's going to be some sort of mating trick with rook here to mate on f7 if black's not careful. Let's examine this though. d4. We can try and mate black. I just need a square. Just give it a square. Well, there's h5 trying to make black. It takes here. Wins the e5 square. If we take like that. But we lose d4. Okay, is there better? Is there better? Hold on. These pawns surely are worth more than that. Are they? d4. I just played check. Check.
Check.
So king g1. So d4 here. Let's have a look at d4 here. Rook a7. How is the rook on the 7th holding things up? g4, g5 to give g6, h5. Oh, we've got knight e2 check here. We can just take here because we've got now knight e2 check to rook takes d4. I don't think this is
check.
Big deal, is it? For black? This king's making sure the rook can't play that. We've got the knight covering g7. h5 would probably just take that and come here. With these pawns are imminent danger. So I think this g5 coming up. So just d4 looks quite good. Just d4. Let's just check this. I'm getting crazy here. Just d4. No, apparently it was like a bit d4. Oh, that's equal, but that's enough for Nakamura to win the match anyway. Even if this is equal. So apparently it's equal with rook b1 check. So I wonder how this was getting in trouble. Just out of interest. This is apparently equal with
check.
Perpetual check. You'd have to find g4 here. Blimey, what is this? So f5 check. Is winning the knight. Was Black actually playing that? Oh, just perpetual checks. So anyway, Naka's gone with something different. He's gone with c3. So if rook takes d5 c2, and we've got rook b1, there's no rook c5, so that would be bad news. So here I think he's just guaranteed himself a draw. Okay, so let's have a look at this g5, this crazy g4. Actually, it's threatening rook f7 and h5 mating. That's quite interesting, but it wasn't played. Okay, so rook e1, rook b6. The rook can now go behind pawn. What's going on? Rook takes d5 though. What's the matter with rook takes d5? Is it c2? We've got rook b1. there's rook. Yeah, there's if rook e5. Maybe we just play. Oh, we just play knight d4 with threatening knight f3 check. What does white do about rook b1 and c1 there? So say king f2, rook b1. We're threatening now c1. If we play rook c4, okay. So rook e5 was played. So knight d4. So we're threatening knight f3 check. So king f2. Rook b1 looks dangerous. He's just allowed himself to lose the exchange. It's knight f3 check. What was the best move here from an engine point of view then? Rook c5 was actually black was doing very well here. Look at this. Knight d4, black's actually winning this. If king f2, there was knight b3 anyway. So Nakamura, I mean, he's won the match because he can at least draw this now. I think looks fairly impossible to lose. Trying to say, in fact, it's looking very good for black here. Actually, isn't it? Because this does look quite good.
Check.
King f2 coming up. Rook b2 just to keep the pawn. King has to get out of the way. h5. Anytime the king steps, we can play check. There's no rook c3, we're just queen. On the other hand, king d2. Maybe we just queen and play rook g2. Let's play king d4. Well, there's rook b3 here. Just on g3 now. Rook b3 seems good enough. Is that all over or something? I don't know what does the white do with the rook b3? Was it king? Is he only a king e5? Just give up g3 for this check.
Check.
So we make an inroad there to f6 potentially. So we play rook takes here. And actually, this could be dangerous for black. Like, you know, this would be dangerous for black, of course. So white's king is going to be careful not to just win g3, but lose to something horrible like that. Okay, so what do we want to do here? What do we want to do? Oh, he has played this. If we play king e5, is it a check here first? We can play check first and then take the pawn.
Check.
We avoid that active king issue. Right, so he's actually just taken on c2. It's here. Check.
Check.
Check. Well, it appears now rook g4 is going to be good. Oh no, king e5 again is that issue. Okay, so rook a6. He wants to be able to kick the king. He's able to kick the king away with rook e1. This king can come like this if there's loads of checks. So king e5, rook e1. If there's loads of checks,
Check.
we can just do this. Go like this. I think he just wants a draw anyway. A draw would win the match. I don't think he cares about getting the king to h6. Let's see what was the engine thing here then. Check.
Check.
King g7. The king
Check.
does mention king h6. And then this is getting a bit dangerous though for king f6. In fact, this could be like potentially
Check.
losing, I think. Blimey. But as long as we can evict the king with rook b6 check, it doesn't
Check.
matter. So, given that king h6 isn't such a big deal, why not just keep the king around here then? Just get the draw, I think. Was it drawn? Did they just draw? The game was drawn. Okay, I think the king just stays around. I think if the king here, we just kick it.
Check.
So we don't allow the king to come to f6. So drawn. So congratulations to Nakamura. Great, I hope you got something from the commentary here. Okay, I hope you enjoyed it. Please remember to like the video. We've got 28 likes. Likes all appreciated on the video. And I'll be trying to do more of these in the future because they've been good fun. I hope you found them good fun. Thanks very much. So Nakamura wins the whole thing. Okay, comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much. With the draw, just to clarify, yeah, Nakamura's won the 2-game match and he's won the whole thing.